Everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We've got Thomas, the CEO of Komperdell Poles, and we're going to be interviewing him and diving deep into the company Komperdell and Thomas's role there and just kind of what drives him. We are going to be adding Komperdell Poles onto our website for Live Ultralight members at the same time that this is going out. So this has kind of dual purposes and dual meanings. It'll help you get to know those products really, really well and why we trust them and why they're our preferred pole. But also we'll be talking a little bit about just why you should consider trekking poles to begin with. So with that introduction, I'm also coming off of being a little bit sick. So Brigham, I'm going to have him kind of head up a lot of this podcast, but wanted to give a really warm welcome to you, Thomas. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that at the last OR show, we were able to sit down with you for, I think, well over 30 minutes. And you just took us through a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff, testing, and just had a very private conversation that just really sold us on the poles. And right away, we got some poles. We airshipped them back to our office so that they beat us home from the show. And since then, I've personally, I was actually thinking about this today. I've personally put well over 300 miles on my set of poles that I got at that show. So, and you wouldn't know it. Like, you look at the poles, I've never had any issues with them. They still look phenomenal. And I'm more sold than ever after putting 300 miles on them. So, that's kind of the backstory, I guess, for me of why I've really come to love with them. But I'd really like to just dive into maybe a couple of the things that we talked about at the show. But before we get to that, would you mind just giving our audience, Thomas, a little bit of background on you, your role at the company, and how you got involved with Komperdell?
Okay, happy to. So I'm sitting here in our factory, in our showroom. It's a little bit later in the evening, like 7:30 in Austria. How did I get involved? I was actually born into the business because we are a family business. And I kind of grew up. So my first experiences in the company was running around as a 4-year-old and getting chased off the production floor by my mom. And that's how I actually came about it. I always knew that I wanted to run my own company. I've seen it from my father. It was great. He was the chief. He could decide where the direction where the company is going. It was not necessarily clear initially if what I'm going to do in which area. But then during school and university, I was lucky that my dad actually, used me a lot of international sales, a lot of product development. And then I grew into it and really grew to love the industry. I mean, we're in a great industry. We have people that have still handshake quality. You touch a very pleasant part of people's lives. It's something you make a tangible product, something that I always wanted to do, to really see it somewhere. And for me, kind of the coolest thing is when I'm traveling internationally, maybe in some remote location, and you see a pole that's actually originated right here in the company. This is just great. In the meantime, my parents, who are still shareholders in the company, so both my parents and me. I took over the company, so in the meantime, I own the company. I've been running it for the past 25 years. We ourselves are a very product-oriented company. For us, product comes at the center. We see ourselves as a manufacturer. We are still manufacturing 100% of the poles locally here in Austria. For us, that's important because that's where we can develop. We love to play. We love to test boundaries, try out some crazy ideas sometimes. Some of them fail. Some of them are not so great as they initially are. But, with the production floor really close by, I can just walk out into production, slap together a prototype, take it up on a mountain, and then start using it and start seeing how I feel. What we do in development and what I do, development is something that is, for us, has always been kind of the boss role here, is when I develop always consumer focused. Nobody, and it's a very challenging thing. Very often people develop something, because it's new. Yeah, it's new. What reason actually to change a product? A product should always bring a tangible benefit and an upgrade to a consumer. If it doesn't do that, even if it would sell well because it sounds good, we consider this not a very honest product. If we want to bring something to the market and we really want to bring honest markets to the product, it's my name that stands behind it, but it's most importantly the name and the feel of my 200 people that have been working with me here in Austria. Most of them have been with me for more than half their life. So we have an average retaining age in production of more than 21 years. This also shows it means more than just slapping together a couple of sticks. But you have to stay in development, you have to stay focused. It has to have a reason why a product is there, and you have to feel better when you go up a mountain, when you're on your next tour, because nobody's going up on a mountain just to carry a pair of poles up there. Let's also be very clear. I tell myself always with Thomas, it's just a stick. So we can enhance the experience, but nobody, as I said, goes up a mountain to carry a stick up there. We love what we do. I did it out of pleasure every day. I haven't had a single day in my career where I did not love and enjoy what I'm doing, which is the key aspect for me to carry on with the company and how we do it. We love what we stand for, and we love to hear from and connect with our customers, especially the consumers, because they are the ones that drive it. We're looking for criticism, things that they would like to have improved, because then we can always question ourselves and keep improving our product. So that's basically who we are. As I said, a lot of people invest a lot of heart into each and every product that goes there. And that's something that we hope that the consumer out on the market will feel and get touched by it. I really appreciate the comment. And it's great that you love the pole. If you didn't love it, then we would have to make some changes. But this is something what we really strive for.
Yeah, I mean, I think what really got us interested in them is just the strength to weight of your poles. So I want to dive into that. But before I do, so this is the second generation in this company, or is it a third generation company?
It's the second generation in the company.
Okay. And I think it's very interesting that you guys have stayed so, disciplined to one thing, right? You guys, for the most part, have just made poles. And you do have kind of some kind of a partner business per se, but, making poles for what is it? How many years? I guess you've been running it for 25. How many years old is the company at this point?
The company itself is turning 100 years next year, but we took it over in 83. So our family took it over in 83. At that time, my father, because we started with a wetsuit company. And in the meantime, we touch a lot of different phases. We do a lot of protection. We do snowshoes. So the company has branched out, but the key focus is, as you said, still poles. That's where we can make the biggest difference.
Were there any technology changes from the time you guys took it over till now that were just very pivotal for increasing strength or reducing weight or things like that? Probably the biggest change if we're talking about reducing weight, which is one of the key aspects for you, was actually when alternative materials to the existing aluminum shafts came out, specifically carbon. We very early on saw the potential in it, started playing around with carbon 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and then got deeper into it. And that's when we then also decided that for us, we not only want to put together the pole, both in aluminum and carbon, we also own the carbon shaft manufacturing. So we really start from scratch because carbon doesn't equal carbon. We use 7 or 8 different type of resin families. We use 16, 18 different types of fibers to build the shaft to the specification what we want. What this means is everybody else buys a standard carbon shaft, combines it with a couple of grips, slaps it together and says that's what the pole is for. When you do this, you'll pay for a lot of things that you don't need, and you don't necessarily invest the money where you need it. So when I design a pole, I start by designing the shaft to where I want to go. Some of them I do for lightweight, some of them I do for durability, some of them I do for stiffness, and that was one of the most pivotal changes
was that we actually could find a lighter weight material, and then we started playing around with it and saw how much more we can get out of a shaft if you really are able to develop it properly too. So now our poles, I mean, in the past 30 years, they've lost, I'd say, 60% of their weight, and at the same time gained, I'd say, 50% strength.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible, because I mean, we've seen a lot of poles out there. There's a lot of lightweight poles out there, and when you do look, just at the carbon on some of those poles, a lot of them look identical, right? Like the carbon, like the grid pattern of it, and you can tell it's rolled and a few different things like that. So maybe just, I don't know how much is proprietary, how much you want to share on that, but maybe just touch on a little bit about that, because I know there are some poles out there, even in our industry, where people really like the pole because it's a super lightweight pole, but there's also, you get feedback from people saying that they're breaking that pole, or that there's fears of breaking that pole, and it's at least known, like they kind of go in the same conversation sometime. And having seen that pole and other poles, a lot of their carbon fiber does look the same. So from your knowledge, being kind of an insider in this industry, how much of those carbon fiber shafts are coming from one manufacturer somewhere, or maybe slight variations in the same pole shaft?
If you talk what other people are using, I'd say the base technology behind it is like 90% is the same.
Okay.
In order to develop this, we had to develop new production processes, because at the same time, you want to be cost effective. On the other hand, as you pointed out, people have kind of this assumption with carbon, how many percent of carbon? Doesn't matter. The percentage really doesn't matter as much. It's the fiber layup, it's the type of fiber that you use, it's the resin you combine it with. And that's the biggest difference, where we had to develop special machinery to actually be able to produce the type of shaft that we want to have. And you're absolutely right. One thing that, and there I come back to staying focused in development, it is a trekking pole. A trekking pole is also a safety item. Yeah, you can carry it around other super light poles, but that's not where it's key. Where it's key is when you slip, when you tumble, when you actually fall onto the pole, and then it has to hold up. So I had a lot of things where I said, I'm not going to do this, because this is something that I would personally no longer consider a reliable trekking pole. And that's the key aspect where we make the difference. We could probably make some things lighter, but then we would sacrifice the basic need of the carbon pole, and that's what we don't want. It's a little bit more expensive to do it this way. It's a little bit harder. But on the other hand, if you work a little bit harder, you can make a difference on the market. And as you've seen, they're not only lightweight, they're stiff. The durability is where we want to have them. And that's what we built the poles for. Because sacrificing on the basic need of a pole is not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had conversations with people, especially like trail runners, where they're just like, yeah, I break a couple poles a year, and that's just what happens, right? And that doesn't seem to be what you guys go after, because you guys have a very, very solid warranty program, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and how you stand behind the product?
I mean, for us, it's not only about making the right product. What we are looking for is that customer for life. So we want you to sell you your next pole, the one after that, and your last pole. We know in between something is going to happen. You might drive your truck over it. You might step onto the pole. People might make a mistake. Also, this can happen. The thing is that how do you actually back it up? And just for making it in Austria is quality, I think is a very simplistic, not correct assumption. People in other countries work at least as hard as the Austrians do here. We just have a little bit more experience. So we back it up with a 3-year, dare to say, even if it's 4, if it's 5 years, if it's 25 years, we love to back it up. Free repair service. We do not believe in throwing away product and then just replacing it. We think we offer a valuable product, but you can make mistakes. And that's where we back it up. No questions asked, no receipt necessary, no matter where you bought it, local in your country. Even if somebody buys it in the US, a French guy, he can send it locally into France. and directly to the manufacturer. So people send it straight back to us. This helps me get the direct feedback, what happened. If you drove your truck over it, there's no need for me to be concerned that the pole broke. If you say, Thomas, this happened now the second time during use, it's something where I should actually have a closer look. Is there a mistake? Is there a flaw? What we can do? And the second thing is, yes, it's about honesty. When we say quality, we want to prove it. I would never want one of my people locally here be ashamed of what we put out. It puts a little bit more pressure on us to really deliver on what we do, but it's really worth it. We have a ton of happy customers, and that's what we back it up with. And very often my people get, I get poles back which have been 20 years old, and they've been all over the world. That's especially the pole we got to repair free of charge, because that's kind of their favorite piece. That's something where they really have very fond memories they associate with the product, and that's what we do it for. As I said, for us, it's great if we are allowed to accompany a user on their favorite activity and maybe be associated with them, some of their fond memories. And for us, it's not a marketing gig. It's a question of honesty, making honest product. It's a question of excelling not just in product, but also in service. And once again here, when I developed the program, I took a view from the consumer's point of view. What would I like to have? I would not want to go back to a retailer who's maybe far away, and then I have to explain myself how I did it, and just, is this justified or not? I just want the damn thing repaired again so that they can go up the next mountain. So what we did is we cut out a lot of steps there and said, you send it to us, we repair it, we send it back. Simple, done. Which means you have the product faster in your hands. We get the opportunity to interact with you as a consumer. And we'll make you happy and keep you on your product. And it's something that we just not put out as a marketing gag. It's really honestly meant to be used. We use it very proactively. We are a premium product, so you deserve premium service, and that's what we want to back it for.
Yeah, and I would, so like I was going to touch on that a little bit later, but you guys are a premium product. Like, you're a little bit more money. But you do get that benefit of the warranty for sure, and then also you get just the best pole, which is really what most people I think initially are going to be buying off of. And I want to talk about the locks that you guys use, your flip locks. But before I get to that, and before we move off of the just the strength aspect of the shafts, I did want to talk about aluminum poles. See, we're going to be initially launching the carbon C3 Cloud. That's the carbon pole. And then the Explorer Contour Power Lock. And that's actually an aluminum pole. Mm-hmm. And you had told us at the show a little bit about your guys' aluminum capabilities. And you even said that your aluminum poles are as good, if not better, than some carbon poles. So maybe talk to us a little bit about your aluminum capabilities as well, if people are looking for maybe a slightly lower priced pole that is still exceptionally well built, exceptionally strong, and comes with the same warranty.
You're right. A lot of people use carbon for sexiness. I don't believe in that. This would not be an honest product. Carbon is more expensive. You expect more for it. If the pole is not considerably lighter, why should they use carbon? If you look out there, what's out there on the market, there's a ton of poles out there. I wouldn't use carbon for it, because I can make it out of aluminum, 20% lighter, 40% cheaper, so why should I ask so much money from it? That's not necessary. The difference here is it's not just the shaft, it's also the grips, the components that come with it. And on the shaft, like we do in carbon, we bought a vendor of ours 25 years ago, where we were developing the Titanal shafts. So we use a special kind of aluminum alloy and a very special heat treatment process. This means we can reduce the wall thickness a little bit and still carry even more than not just the same, but more strength than other poles on the market out there do. This helps you reduce the weight. And if you look at something like the Explorer, I think it's right now at around 218, 220 grams. Go out on the market and look what a carbon pole is. some of the major competitors that I have carbon poles out at 300 grams or more. There's no need to go there. You just don't need it. And that's the main reason why we say, okay, both poles would be a great choice, because your message is light. Yeah, that's what you have to stay true to, but it's also about durability. And I love the Explorer. It's my best-selling pole. It's not as crazily light as the C3 Cloud. I mean, what you have to see is that the C3 Cloud in a 3-section pole weighs less than the lightest weight single shaft ski pole out there on the market. That's how far the difference is where we go. So although we have 3 sections, although we have locks and everything on it, we can still have less weight than you would have on a single stage aluminum alpine ski pole, carbon alpine ski pole. And that's the big issue that you have between it. In the end, it comes down to you feeling it. As I said, your experience on your next trip has to be better. And if you consider that during 8 hours, you lift your pole 100,000 times, and if you lift 100 grams more, it means you have 10,000 kilograms more. That's 10 tons extra lifting. Might be good exercise, but it's not really what you want to do and what you have.
That's really interesting to break it down like that. But it's very, very true. I mean, I recently just was out on a hike and I was in the snow, and so I put on my heavier snow boots, and I couldn't believe how much more tired those boots made me. I needed to replace them and get some lighter weight winter boots, but even though over the course of, say, 5 miles, I could absolutely feel it. And the same thing goes with trekking poles, right? I mean, you're just repeatedly picking it up, moving it, picking it up, moving it. And a little bit over, like you said, 8-hour period adds up to be tons and tons of weight. I mean, you threw some numbers out there that I don't know if those are actual numbers or truth or not, but I can tell you it feels like that.
They really are. As I said, we once even ran an advertising campaign, get those elephants off your back. Is because, as I said, during 8 hours, you actually lift an extra elephant. Elephant is an average of 8 to 9 tons.
Wow. I like that. I'm going to steal that and put that in the back of my brain for a minute. Okay. That's really cool. Brigham, I'm going to let you ask him a little bit about the locks. I know that those are some of your favorite aspects and something that was just super, super interesting to see and hear about from Thomas at the show.
Yeah. That was, there were so many things when we met you face to face, and it was so easy to just sit there. We could have sat and talked with you all day, and all the details of your development and the engineering and the testing. That was just so intriguing and pretty inspiring, actually. And the locks was one of those areas where, as we had them in our hands and we flicked them open and then clamped them closed, and you just without you explaining anything, I was able to kind of tell, like, there's something different here than what I felt in other poles. And then when you went on to explain the engineering that goes into the poles and the materials and the manufacturing processes that make them so strong, and then the testing that you were able to explain to us and show to us on your laptop with the graphs and the videos. I mean, it was all remarkable. And I think our listeners would love to hear kind of some of those things, the details you explained to us about the locking mechanisms, how you develop them, and the strength that can be expected from these poles.
Happy to. The biggest, our locking mechanism is really unique. The biggest difference compared to anything else, what we had before, or what every other pole brand is playing with, is that our locking mechanism is made fully out of forged aluminum. We alwaast had external locks. Usually they were injection molded with a thermoplast, and they work not badly. But the thing is, with the thermoplast, you always get the thing that they stretch over time, and there's pressure on them. They can stretch, which means they lose their holding power. When you open them and close them again, they can lose up to 40-60% of their holding power. I think I showed you that as well. And what you also have to see is that the pole has a temperature range, sorry, being European, I have to stay in centigrade, of 140 degrees centigrade, where the lock is out. If you leave it on your dashboard, it's immediately within 15, 18 minutes, it's up to 70, 80 degrees. That's close to water boiling temperature. And then at the same time you are out somewhere in the Arctic Circle, it can go down to minus 40, minus 45 degrees. So that's where the lock has to perform. The one thing that we saw is that when we developed the Power Lock 3.0, so the third generation of our Power Lock system, and I always got the wish, oh, Thomas, can we make it look nicer and so on. And there we come back to making credible innovation. I said, yeah, the looks is okay, but it's not going to really change something fundamentally on the performance. And then I started looking at and saying, since I have a lot of experience in aluminum, that I said, why not change the material? Because that was the only deficiency I really saw, was the strength of the locking mechanism. And if you look at customers' reviews on websites, and what you get back is always, yeah, those telescopic poles, they are great, but they can slip. So kind of the holy grail was, okay, make a pole that really almost cannot slip anymore. And I then saw that with the thermoplast, it would not be possible to go there. So we have very strong manufacturing capabilities in manufacturing small aluminum parts. And we then said, okay, if we want to do this effectively with the consistent quality that we want to have behind it, we had to invest heavily into machinery. So it's a fully automated production cell that we actually run there. We also saw that you cannot just use any type of aluminum. You cannot use a cast aluminum because this wouldn't get you something. So we had to get to a forged aluminum. And at the same time, we had the restriction that it should not weigh more than a thermoplast, which is basically kind of a pain in the butt because aluminum has a higher density than the thermoplast, so you have more. But with aluminum, I can create less volume. So the overall weight of actually the Power Lock 3.0 is even a gram less than our old 2.1. The strength quadrupled. So we now have a holding power of at around 200 kilograms. I think you've seen it when I showed you the video that in most cases that we had, and this was just by accident because I had my production manager in our test facilities start compressing it vertically, is that before the pole slipped, the locking mechanism slipped, actually the shaft exploded. So you really have something, you have an incredible strength. I then did a test that I said, okay, if I could drive I have a BMW SUV, if on 4 pairs of poles with the platform, I could actually drive my BMW on it and it would not slip. That's how strong the whole thing is. The big thing, however, that the user says is, I want it to be as slip-proof as possible. Second thing is, I also don't want to readjust constantly what we have in there, and this is the benefit of aluminum because it does not stretch.
Maybe tell us a little bit, you kind of touched on right there some of the testing procedures you guys do. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what are some of the tests you do, and maybe how do your poles stack up against other poles that you've tested?
I mean, testing consists of 2 basic things. Number 1 is what we do here in the lab. So that's where we also, we like to compare holding powers, vertical tests, 3-point paint tests, dynamic hit tests. You hit the poles against rocks. So you want to make sure that also, especially on a carbon shaft, that it is not too brittle, because what you have to see is the lighter you make it, the carbon is very hard. The problem is that sometimes that hardness can become brittle, and then when you hit it against the rock, the carbon shaft might crack, what people have maybe experienced in the past. So there's at least 7 or 8 basic lab tests it goes through during development. I'd say like 10,000 test cycles that we run it through, always depending on what you want to use. Also, not just to the static compression test on the locking mechanism. The prettiest thing is actually when you hit it on granite or so on, just with 2 fingers, hold your pole, and then the locking mechanism starts to slowly come down. So those dynamic tests are really important as well. And then for me, the key is then actually going out into the field, trying it out ourselves. Does it really give us the performance that we want? And the third and most critical test is then also getting it out with the beta series in the hands of consumers, people, general users, inexperienced users, to see, okay, what else can go wrong on the pole. So those are the three major stages a product goes through until we actually start to release it on the market. The testing here in the shafts is also the quality control when you actually run through it, because you have to, especially with carbon, ensure that you have a stable quality. And yeah, the rest is then just a lot of time spent out in the field and trying it and seeing, and always looking for what I don't like. You know, does it feel comfortable in your hands? Does it swing properly? It's not just the weight that is important, but also how it feels in use. And that's something you can just test out in the field.
Yeah, I've fallen in love with the grip of of what you guys have on your grips. That's definitely been my favorite grip that I've used so far, and so I can also test that it's not just all about the weight and the strength, but even sometimes just how it swings and the grip play major factors as well. So you had talked to us, and again, you don't have to get into specifics, but you actually had shown us some information about you testing your poles with the highest end other poles, and we won't name the brand names or anything like that, on the market. And basically you're showing us that yours are lighter and stronger according to your own testing. Because again, you're not taking just your poles through those 5 or 6 different testing methods. You're taking, you know, your competitors' poles, and you're seeing what levels they're at. And basically what you showed us is that you're exceeding them on every front. And that was really, really interesting for us to see. And I think at that point I was just kind of going like, man, why is everybody not using a Komperdell pole? And it sounded like what it, and I think it, you know, maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll help you get there. But it sounded like, you know, you guys have been a massive player in Europe for a long time, but maybe you haven't been as aggressive in the United States. Is that true?
Yeah. That's true. I mean, the United States and Canada are a super important market for us. We've had the honor to work with a lot of major companies also. But the key focus, we are coming from Europe, has always been in Europe. So in the US, we might not be as well known as we like and as we think sometimes also the product deserves. So I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation here today. And, you know, it means word of mouth. We haven't had the US distribution for as long a time as some of our competitors have had it. So this is something that we have to get out, because you have to have people that are happy about it and put it out there. So that's probably one of the main reasons why we are not as well known as the product deserves. It doesn't mean that we're unknown. I mean, the US is a very successful market for us, but it could certainly be more. And yes, what you pointed out, how to compare, how to stack up against your peers and your competitors on the market, this is important for us, because what you have to see is, yes, I respect everybody. Everybody has his own way of doing things. We have to follow what we believe is necessary. Sometimes, you know, focusing on consumer benefit means sacrificing a little bit of short-term business success, because you can sell it for their sexiness, but that's not something what we're in the market for. We are in the market for a long term. Our company is 100 years old, and I want it to be still present and the force in the market in 100 years from now, and that's where we cannot take those risks. And when, for example, the locking mechanism, when we compare this, the second strongest lock in the market that we saw was at 78 kilograms, and we are at 200. So that's almost 3 times as much in holding force that we can actually generate with the lock. If I look on average, not only is something like the C3 Cloud the lightest weight, let's say it fully considered trekking pole out on the market. As you said, there are some things out there that compare better to a fly fishing rod than to a pole. It is the case. It's, you know, if you, like you said, trail running, oh, I don't mind if it breaks. What they have to see is, however, that the pole is also a safety item. Yes, when you stumble, you fall onto it, and when it then breaks and you crash on it, then you might have a fatal crash or actually really fall off a mountain. And that's something that responsibility is something that we take seriously. But on average, I'd say, let's put it this way, our aluminum pole currently is the second lightest pole. The difference is 6 grams than any other pole on the market from any other brand. And the carbon C3 cloud is 25 to 30% lighter than anything else out there on the market. On average, if we compare sets and price points and so on where we are, I'd say that we are about 30% lighter.
Yeah.
But what we want to stress is that we do not sacrifice strength for it. That's something that we don't want to do. And you pointed out the bridge, Tayson. It is important. I believe in very clean designs. For example, we have everything done in foam. The inside, the injection molded parts are very small. So this way you have nothing that can be uncomfortable, chafing on your wrist or getting blisters is just not there anymore. And at the same time, I save a tremendous amount of weight. What it needed, however, was a special production technology that only we have to really make what we call a full foam grip, so that the whole piece down to the tip on the top part where the strap is attached is really fully made out of foam. We save money this way. We save weight this way. Yes, we have to invest something, but this brings me back. Yes, we make a premium product. The consumer also expects a premium experience with the product.
Yeah. I would agree with all of that. I've had times when I've leaned on a pole and had it slide on me, and I've always in my mind been like, oh, maybe I had like the twist locks, right? Like, oh, maybe I didn't get it tight enough or something like that. Or there's been times when the trekking poles have saved me from, falling down or tipping over something. And so I agree, they are a safety item and you definitely don't want them to fail. And so seeing how light your poles are, as well as backed up by all of the claims that you've been talking about through this, the strength and not only the poles, but the locks and so on, so forth, to me, just put together a fantastic package. And then obviously you're backing that up by an amazing warranty as well. So for us, you really kind of stole our hearts, I guess you could say, as far as just falling in love with these poles. Again, me putting hundreds and hundreds of miles on them now, they've become my favorite pole and have just a lot of confidence in them, which I think is just really important, that when people get that product, they have that confidence in the product. And that goes a long ways, because the more confidence you can have, we say this on the show all the time, but the more confident you are, the more you're going to go out and do stuff, the more you're going to go on trips, go on hikes. And a lot of that comes back to the confidence in the gear that you have. So, Brigham, any last questions for Thomas before we let him go and be respectful of his time here? But
not necessarily a question, just some comments. We're a product focused brand as well. There's all kinds of brands that are product focused brands. And in my position in design, there's a lot of decisions that always have to be made. You have to set priorities. I guess I hope that our listeners in listening to everything you have to say, I hope they have a very clear understanding, because I feel like your priorities are very clear. You're very upfront and honest about them. And so I personally just really appreciate how clear that is to see. Just, we spoke in person and we're talking again. And yeah, I think that's incredibly valuable. And I think, the world could use more of that, those clear, visible, transparent priorities. And it's been a pleasure to get to know you and learn more about everything that you do.
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments. It's very nice. But I also have to say, it's always very nice to have customers who really are focused and are interested in the product and how to make it better. This is not always the case. It's specifically true, however, in North America. There's a lot of technical interest also from the consumers. We see it, consumer questions that we get are really very close by. And that's something that we really love. And as you said, yes, we put it out there. We want to have to be upfront about it and also say, this is what the product can do. This is what it cannot do. And yeah, we love seeing people out on the slopes and using our product and hopefully having fun with them, because that's what they're essentially there for. I mean, they're touch a very pleasant part in people's everyday lives. And it's for us always a great challenge being in sporting goods in general, is that there's always something new coming. You know, whenever I finish a product line, there's already 100 new things. They'll say, okay, you could maybe try this and do a little bit better. That's the constant challenge which you have to embrace if you want to be in the sporting goods market, because yeah, it never gets old. But on the other hand, you're always driven because you have to drive fast and live what you do. But if you enjoy, like I do, and like a lot of my people here really do, and live for the brand and standing for something, then that's something where that boundary between private and work can really grow together. I mean, testing product out on the mountain is not actually a bad working day for me. So
yeah, I think when we talked, we felt like we just aligned very well in that aspect as well, where it's just, you know, we have a lot of similar thoughts on where we are in this kind of passion industry where there's just always going to be innovation because people are just so passionate about it. But I think both of us just feel like, or all three of us just feel like we're still lucky to be a part of it, even if it means you just can never sit back for half a second. You know, you just always got to be pushing forward. So
that's what we're here for. That's what we do it for. That's what we enjoy it. Gentlemen, I greatly appreciate the really detailed interest that you had at the trade show in the product, also making this possible today. It's not very often that we get the opportunity to explain of what we do. And I remember our meeting really well, where we really, you know, it's for me, somebody who's doing product development, it's great to have somebody who's really interested also in what we do and how we do it, and not just say, okay, Thomas, you get a lot of money for your product, do your job and shut up. Also acceptable, but naturally I appreciate it when somebody is really interested in what we can bring to the market. And I hope you have fun with it, and yeah, look forward to seeing you then on the next show, hopefully soon, and show you what we plan to do.
Yeah, no, we definitely look forward to meeting you again in person. We'll go ahead and let you go here, Thomas, but thanks so much for taking the time with us this evening. We're really excited about the product. We're really excited to show our customers that, and you know, like also again to meet up in person again. So
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, and have a good rest of your evening over there in Austria.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye. Take care.
Awesome. So we still got me and Brigham here, and we wanted to just do kind of a breakdown, I guess, of that. I know the audio was just a little bit rough on that one, so we might kind of cover a couple things again just to make sure you guys can hear that and understand it all. But overall, I don't know, what were your thoughts on how that went, Brigham, and is there anything new that came up for you?
You know, I don't remember when he was talking about, you know, the carbon, their development and how they've got all the different resins and fibers and weaves. I remember him touching on that, but I guess it was a little more in detail today. But I really, that's really impressive to me, and like how honest he was about when he said, like, in the end, you know, 90% of it's the same, but like when you think about it, well, where does that other 10% come from? And I think it comes from that level of detail where he was going into like the different types of resins and weaves and fibers, because that focus, rather than just kind of pulling off like you know, acquiring a general commodity level of carbon shaft or manufacturing technology, I think that additional 10% comes from their focus on you know, just getting the best, you know, carbon shaft that they can based on what the objective is. Like he said, whether it's, you know, trying to make one that's incredibly light, one that's incredibly strong, you know, different thicknesses, different strength levels. And I love that attention to detail and that focus on, like, 90% of it's the same, but here's how we go above and beyond. And it's really involved. If you think about from a manufacturing standpoint, their investment there with all the machinery and doing all that is pretty cool.
Yeah, you can tell they don't shy away from investing in machinery. It's like, if this is going to give us, an advantage or an increase in performance, then it seems like they just buy that machinery and move forward, right? So, yeah, I'd agree though. I think, years ago, I definitely did not understand that not all carbon was the same, or I thought it was all the same. Not that not all carbon is the same. But yeah, I think the more that you really get into that, obviously we've actually walked some factories that do carbon production. We've seen some of that, and it's a very extensive process. And just like you mentioned, sometimes those minor details make all the difference. And sometimes they're major details, ones that maybe we're not allowed to share some of these due to proprietary information and production. But I'll just tell you this, there's a reason that some of these carbon fibers perform at a totally different level, because the production of it is completely different. And that's definitely seems to be the case with Komperdell. So yeah, just really, really impressive. I mean, I know we can't show these. He was showing us, again, some kind of private footage and stuff behind the scenes of some of these tests. So we were kind of watching the videos of them putting different poles in until they were, breaking and testing these different things, and definitely left us very confident in the pole. And like I said, we instantly purchased some poles and air-shipped them home so that we could, get them out on a trip we were doing literally the next week. And we wanted to just put as much time on those poles as we could. And we have, like I said, I've put a lot of miles on them, so as other people in the office, and just a very confidence-inspiring product. I feel like that's just a great way to sum it up.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think if being able to hear somebody of a knowledgeable position in their company off the top of their head, be able to go into so much depth in a short period of time, like that 45-minute conversation where they can address like all the things that they do to make a better pole, essentially, right? That's, to me, that's where a lot of the confidence comes from, because it's not, they're just very transparent and straightforward about, what they prioritize. And the idea of, if we can't make something that's better, that makes a better experience, then there's no point in doing it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we touched on this a little bit, but we are going to offer 2 of these poles to our Live Ultralight members. One is the aluminum pole. That's the Explorer Contour Power Lock pole. We've used that one. I haven't used that one as much as the carbon pole, but I do have, again, just a lot of confidence in that. And it is the cheaper pole. So you can get that if maybe this carbon pole is a little bit out of your reach. You can always go with this aluminum pole and basically know that it's as good as almost all the carbon poles out there anyways. Is kind of it's a little bit of a broad stroke, but obviously some of the upper level carbon players are still going to have really, really good poles, but this pole is going to compete with any carbon pole out there as an aluminum pole. And then we're going to be offering the Carbon C3 Cloud, or the Carbon Cloud. And that's the pole that I've used quite a lot. It's going to be a little bit lighter, and just as a very, very amazing pole. So these are now, we did this a little bit ago, but we gated all these products just to our Live Ultralight members. So if you do want one of these products, they are available to the Live Ultralight members. And the Live Ultralight membership, again, is a store credit membership. It's $10 a month. That $10 instantly goes into store credit, and then you get a bunch of savings on things such as these poles. You're going to get 10% off site-wide year-round. Then you're going to get additional savings on sales and things like that. You get early access. You get limited edition stuff. You get free priority shipping on everything. And you get rebates. So on this product right here, you cannot, I can guarantee you cannot buy these poles anywhere cheaper, because by the time you get your 10% discount, plus rebates back on this. You're going to be saving a ton of money on these poles. And then, I think we didn't touch on this, but we did talk to him in person about it. The warranty aspect. If you do need to use the warranty, you do contact us. I believe you can, and we can try to help you out, or you can contact them directly. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brigham, but and I wanted to say this in the interview, but I just didn't get the chance. But you would contact someone within the U.S. You would not be contacting, Austria branch to get your poles fixed, so they won't be out of commission for a long, long time. They're very quick and timely on any type of warranty repairs as well. So is that correct, Brigham? Yeah,
that's right. I think they even go as far as to say like they prefer just direct contact with them.
Okay.
It is the fastest way, and it for all the benefits it contributes to their ongoing development and quality control and improvement. But it also is like the best way of just the fastest, most efficient way of getting your pole fixed, and like it's free. You know what I mean? They're not charging you the repair cost, which is pretty remarkable. It's a very, like you said, it's no questions asked. I mean, he told us before he mentioned it on the podcast, like if you run over it with your car, but we're not going to know because we don't ask, you know what I mean? So, it's a pretty cool system they've got.
Yeah. Gives you a lot of confidence when you're spending a decent amount of money. So you're probably, I guess, wondering what the prices are. The regular pricing on these would be $200, $199 for the carbon pole, and I believe $119 for the aluminum pole. So then obviously you're going to get your 10% off that plus your rebates. But again, you're getting an amazing pole and an amazing warranty to back that up. So to kind of wrap this up, I don't think that we'll go into, say, like why we believe in using trekking poles. I think that we'll save that. I do know we have a video on our YouTube channel, Outer Vitals, that will go into like why we use trekking poles. But I will just say this. We're really big believers in trekking poles. You will pretty much never see me on a trail without them. If I don't have them, it's for a very specific reason, probably testing something, because I literally don't leave home without them. And I believe in them so much that I actually leave extra poles in my truck just in case I'm going out with someone who doesn't have them, because I know by the end of the trip, they're going to ask for to borrow mine. And I got so sick of lending my own that I literally have an extra pair of trekking poles just to lend to people because I don't want to give up mine and I believe in them that much. So I know you're kind of the same, Brigham. I never see you out without your trekking poles.
Yeah, unless I forget them, which I rarely do, but I'm sure it's happened.
It's happened to me, and after it happened, I decided that I would no longer pack my trekking poles next to my backpack. They would actually have to go in my backpack from my house to the trailhead, because that's what happened is I'd be moving from one car to the other, or take it into the office to weigh the pack, and then I'd take it out to the truck and I'd lose those trekking poles. So now my rule of thumb is that they are inside of my pack from the moment that I'm leaving the house to getting to that trailhead. So anyways, trekking poles make a massive difference. We really are excited about offering Komperdell on our website. So for those of you that do have interest, go check those out. Again, you will not be able to see them. I don't think you can even see them without being a member of the Live Ultralight membership. So if you do want to see those, if you are a member, make sure you're just logged in. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this podcast up. So thanks for being with us today. If you have not yet rated or subscribed to the podcast, please do so. It does make a big difference for us. We do appreciate that. And it just allows us to continue to bring amazing products to market, as well as share our experience with other amazing products or other brands that we've had good experiences with. And just get you out on the trail more comfortably and more confidently. So thanks for tuning in to the Live Ultralight Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.